But let's talk some NFL with our Odyssey NFL insider, Ross Tucker. Insider Calls brought to you by Nationwide. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side. I'll ask you what we were just discussing in the prior segment, Ross. We were going through some of these 3-0 teams. Take the Bills and Eagles out of it. But between the Niners, Chargers, Bucks, Colts, who's been the most impressive to you?
The Colts. Yeah, I would say the Colts. I got a chance to see them, a lot of them on Sunday, because I called that game Colts-Titans. And I know the Dolphins and the Titans aren't very good, but, I mean, they beat both those teams by 25 points. Like, that is super, super hard to do in the NFL, as you guys know. I mean, think about how good the Chiefs have been in recent years. Not many times they've been blowing teams out like that. And, think even like the Titans. The Titans had the lead late in the third quarter in Denver against the Broncos, against the Rams, the two teams that made the playoffs last year. That game against the Colts was never close. I mean, they were losing by 2 scores at least pretty much the whole game. So it just speaks to the Colts. Now, I don't think that they're great on defense. I think they're probably just okay. But offensively, man, I mean, their O-line's playing awesome. Jonathan Taylor is the best running back in football right now. Tyler Warren is like a top 5 tight end. And I think because of that, it helps their other receivers, Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce. Those guys have always been good players, maybe not great players, but because of all the focus on Taylor and Warren, it's like those guys are getting even more attention. And, I think Steichen's just so happy, their head coach, to have a quarterback that just runs the offense, that just knows what to do, runs the offense to the point where, Daniel Jones is operating at a very, very high level right now.
Generally speaking about offenses, what do you think's going on there again in the league? Because, look, the Chiefs don't look good. They're missing a lot of their weapons, so maybe that's part of it. But, even your Philadelphia Eagles, that's not a fun offense to watch either. Yards per game are down. Is this just the defenses are caught up? We need to wait a month. It just seems like, in general, offense has not been that enjoyable around the NFL.
Well, you're 1,000% correct, although – I will say, if you watch the Ravens-Lions on Monday night, those offenses are still pretty awesome. And there's other teams as well. But I think it's a couple things. They finally figured out a couple years ago that you really are only going to get really shredded if you're giving up explosive plays. So almost everybody is playing, some form of what they call shell coverage with 2 deep safeties or cover 4 or whatever, where they really are not going to let you get passes over 20 yards. It's going to be very difficult to do that. And so what you have to do is be super patient and move the ball down the field, taking the underneath stuff. The problem with that is I think especially the first month of the season, since these guys don't play in the preseason at all, they're going to make a mistake. There's going to be a penalty, motion, or illegal shift, or a hold, or it really is hard to go 10-plus play drives, which is what they're now forcing you to do. So they're forcing you to go the long way, which a lot of teams aren't capable of doing. And then even if you are and you get down there, a lot of times they're doing a better job of making you settle for field goals. And so it's hard. It's really hard.
We're talking to our Odyssey NFL insider, Ross Tucker, here on 96.5 The Fan. What did you make of the Chiefs' performance? An ugly, ugly first half, obviously. And then that opening drive to start the second half, they kind of settled in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I thought of it was they finally at least got something going. And I think probably that maybe the best thing is that, this Thornton guy looks like a real guy.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just in the nick of time where they need him. And I don't know when Worthy's coming back, maybe this week or whatever. And We know there's still a few weeks before Rashee Rice, but very valuable that Thornton actually looks like a player for them because they desperately need that to open up the stuff for Kelsey and Pacheco and those guys underneath a little bit more.
When you look at what the Chiefs are doing, like we asked the question to ourselves, do you think it's still fair to say, hey, let's make a judgment on the Chiefs offense until Worthy and Rice come back? Or are they looking, struggling enough that that's a hard sentence to keep selling?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a combination of what I said about the first month of the season, although interestingly, as you know, the Chiefs actually play their starters more than almost every other team these days, which is wild. You know, like, because you think about it, think, of all teams, do the Chiefs only need to play in the preseason? It's the same guys in the same system this entire time, but yet they do. So you would think that they would be further ahead from that standpoint. But I do think every team, there's an ebb and flow with every team every season. You know, if you remember, the Eagles were 2-2 after week 4 last year and had lost to the Bucs by 3 scores. Well, guys, they haven't lost a game that Jalen Hurts has finished since then. I mean, it's 20 games. It's a full year. They have not lost the game that Hurts finished since then. They've only lost one period. It was the Commanders game where he got hurt in the first quarter. All of which is to say, the concussion, you know, the first month really means very, very little for how we feel about these teams at the end of the year. I really do think a lot of these times these teams are just trying to figure it out in the first month. And then, you know, what you start to see the progress months 2, 3, and 4. I think that will naturally be the case with the Chiefs. And then obviously getting Worthy and Rice should have a big impact on it.
You mentioned the Ravens a minute or so ago, and obviously that offense has been great despite a 1-2 start. The Chiefs are also 1-2, but it feels like the way everybody talks about the Chiefs is so much different than the Ravens. You know, why do you think that is? Is it because everybody loves offense and points? Like the Ravens' defense, of course, has been a problem. The Chiefs' offense has been a problem, but their defenses look good. Why do you feel like people discuss the Ravens as if everything's going to be all right, but with the Chiefs, there's way more concern?
That's a great question. I do think it's because they see the Ravens still scoring 30 points in those losses and having, you know, unfortunate, let's call them Derrick Henry fumbles. But it's like the Chiefs don't get credit for how well their defense has played for whatever reason. I think the Ravens are better than the Chiefs. I think the Ravens are a really, really good team. But you are what your record says you are. You know, I don't care about like the yards per play stats and all these metrics. The Ravens are always so great in all these metrics, and then they lose the games they need to win.
Right. Yeah.
Which is ultimately all that matters. Like, is anybody taking the Ravens over the Chiefs in a playoff game? I don't think so. I don't think anybody's taking the Ravens over the Bills in a playoff game. I don't have a great explanation for it because I feel like they have the talent and the personnel and the coaching and all that to do it, but they don't. They have some real issues on defense right now in Baltimore. They have too many good players to be this bad on defense. And so I don't know if they make a coaching change or what happens, but they got to figure that out.
The biggest storyline that came out not involving the Chiefs out of that game was that Jackson Dart is going to make his debut for the New York Giants. Are you surprised they made the shift this early, or is it just after Russell Wilson put 3 into the seats, they didn't really have much of a choice there at the end of the game?
Well, I guess they had a choice. You know, it's funny because the way I look at it is it's really just the head coach and the GM trying to figure out the best way to save their job.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And I think initially it was, hey, we should have a pretty good defense. If Russell Wilson plays like he did in Pittsburgh, maybe we can go 500, right? And if that doesn't go well, then we could put Jackson Dart in. I think they wanted to try to give the Russell Wilson thing as much of a chance as they could because I think they know with Jackson Dart, they're probably not going to be 500. they're probably not going to make the playoffs or have a great record. The Jackson Dart thing would be more like, hey, we're showing a lot of momentum with this rookie quarterback. You don't want to mess with this. We got a good thing going. I think they probably thought maybe they had a better chance to have that momentum, like if it was a 6 or 8 week thing, as opposed to a 14-week thing. 14-week thing, it could be like he gets off to a good start, but then teams figure him out a little bit. In the last few weeks of the season, he looks like crap, and they still get fired.
I guess for me, Ross, this is part of the issue that I don't like when people are like, oh, you know football better than the people running teams, because this is maybe the 5th quarterback in the last 2 or 3 years that has been handled the exact same way, and I think it's the worst way to handle a quarterback, which is we keep lame duck head coach, we let him screw with young quarterback, we then in year 2 or 3 give him new offensive coordinator, new head coach, new system, force him into relearning it again, and then hope this time it's better. I don't understand why this is a trend in the NFL. Why are they allowing these coaches to screw with the young quarterbacks?
Yeah, well, I think you got to take it on a case-by-case basis. I would agree with you with the Giants. I thought that was a really poor decision. That they also, by the way, didn't know when and where they would draft a quarterback, right? It's the other teams that have the higher picks that's more interesting, like the Titans at number 1. But I don't know. I mean, you hired Brian Callahan, and his quarterback last year was Will Levis. I don't think anybody actually thinks that Levis is a good quarterback. So then the point would be, well, let's give Cam Ward a chance. Let's give this guy a chance with a legit quarterback, and that quarterback is Cam Ward. And Callahan was there with Burrow in Cincinnati, and blah blah blah. And maybe they will turn it around. But that's the logic, I think, with a coach like Callahan or a situation like Tennessee. I don't understand the Giants' decision. I never did.
Ross Tucker, our Odyssey NFL insider. Appreciate it, man. Enjoy some football this weekend. We'll check in next week.
Sounds great. See you guys.